All right, this is what I want to get to. So, when we're dealing with this topic here, as you know, of course, we have Christ, and that deals with Christianity and the Christos and their falsehood that we've talked about, unclean foods, traditions of men, and then what you've been hearing, the Messiah doctrine and the commandments of men. And what I want to say is they've been playing around with this word Christ. And you tell me what you think about this study here coming up right now. Let's get into it. Here's a short but important word study on the words below. Mashiach, you've heard that word. Messiah, Messias, Christos or Christ, Christianos, which means Christian, and all of these are referring to anointed. So Mashiach means anointed, Messiah means anointed, Messias means anointed, Christ means anointed, Christianos means anointed, so to speak, or anointed ones. So this is an understanding, but I want to look at some things here because, let's just look into it. When we look at the etymology of the word Messiah, you have Messiah in Hebrew, Messiah or Mashiach, Mashiach or Mashiach. In the Aramaic or Syriac, we have Messiah, or Latin, we have Messias, meaning anointed one. Then we have in the so-called Hebrew, Melech HaMashiach, that way. All right, so we see that there's these different understandings of the word Messiah. When we look at this word anointed, it means Mashiach in the scriptures, or Messiah, or Mashiach. So Strong's H4899, which means anointed, also translates as Mashiach. Mashiach equals Messiah. And here it is right here. It's translated Messiah 2 times, but for the most part, Mashiach translates as anointed 37 times. And so what I want to say here is, as we're looking at this definition, I heard some people say that there's many Messiahs and many anointed ones. And that is true when you're looking at it, from the general sense, because the word anointed is something that was done with not just the Messiah himself or princes, but kings, priests of King Cyrus and anointed kings. So they could also be called Mashiach, but they'd be anointed ones. They wouldn't be the Mashiach or the Messiah or even the anointed. They have been anointed, but it's not pointing to of the Messiah, the Messianic prince. And I want to show you that. So again, we have the word Messiah in the English Bible 2 times in the Hebrew, and it translates as Mashiach, which means a consecrated, a king or a priest it could be, but specifically the Messiah, the anointed Messiah. And here's the 2 times.
Daniel 9 verse 25. We know therefore, and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks. Verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself.
All right. So right here, when we're looking at this understanding here, this is the 2 times that the word Messiah in English is in the Old Testament. And we know it means Mashiach. And we know that this is referring to our Savior Messiah, not just anybody generally. So now we're going to get into a little bit more of the words. Christos, which again is saying is referring to this Gentile fake Messiah, when we have Messias, which is dealing with here, we call it, the Greek word for Messiah. Now I want to show you something here. Let me show you this short video, just of me kind of looking at translations. So I just want to bring this out here.
Messiah.
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 Messias. Messias.
All right. So I'm going to show you a translation here of an understanding of the word Messiah and Messias. Now, let's get into this. We're dealing with Messiah as opposed to any Christos. Okay, now we have the word Messiah or Messias in the New Testament, and it's only 2 times as well.
John 1 verse 41. He first findeth his own brother Simon, and saith unto him, We have found the Messias, which is, being interpreted, the Christ. John 4 verse 25. The woman saith unto him, I know that Messias cometh, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things.
All right, family, here's the problem. Here's the big problem. I want you to take heed. Have your thinking caps on. I'm going to put mine on so I can explain this the correct way. All right. Look what it's saying here. It's saying that the person is saying they found the Messias, and it's being interpreted as what? The Christ. Right? And Messias here, which is called Christ. All right, so let's look up this word Christ. Right? We know that it's this is the word translate. So being interpreted. This word here is the first word I'm bringing for us. So the word interpreted means to translate into the language of one with whom they wish to communicate, to interpret, right? To translate. So it's saying here that the Messias is interpreted or translates as the Christ. But this is weird.
Yes, it is.
That Messias is called the Christ. It's a very strange thing, and I'll show you why. All right. Look for a second. We have all 4 on the screen. From the Hebrew, from the Daniel, we have the Messiah, the Prince. Notice it says the Messiah. And then in verse 26, it just has Messiah. It doesn't leave in the. And then in John 1, we have the Messias with an S and the Christ. And then we also have in John 4, Messias without the and Christ without the. So, pretty good. You can see that it's almost like very, they're like the same, right? But this word Messiah is here and this word Christ here. Let's take a look. This is the word Christ. 569 times. Means anointed. It says Christ was and is the Messiah, the Son of God. Christos, right? This is the word Christos, which means anointed, the Messiah, an epithet of Jesus or the Christ. So G5547 that we're looking at here is Christos, means anointed. So they're saying Christos equals Christ and Messiah. This is what they're saying. But you notice that when it says from the root word is another Greek word called krio. That's a Greek word for anoint. But that's okay. I don't want to focus on that just yet. I'm just giving you the facts. You notice it says Christ is equals anointed. All right. And this word here, the root word 5548 or 5548, this is where the word Christos comes from krio, to anoint, the consecrating of the Messiah to the Messianic office, and enduing Christians with the gifts of the Holy Spirit. So these are all translations. You're saying the word krio means to anoint, to rub with oil, to smear. So this is where this word anoint comes. All right. Now let's look at the Greek word Messias, because remember there was that word Messias with an S. And you're going to see that Messias equals Mashiach and anointed. So we have Strong's G 3323, Messias, right? Masculine of Hebrew origin, 4899. Notice it's of Hebrew origin, 4899. Where's that 4899 come from? It comes from this word here. The word Messiah, right here. So this is 4899, Mashiach, right? That's what I just want to focus on. So yes. Mashiach, this here. So this word Messias comes from the Hebrew word Mashiach. But then they put in this here, Strong's G 5547, and trying to point you back to Christos again. But Messias doesn't have anything to do with Christos. It has to do with Mashiach. And notice here the definition. Messias also means anointed. Look what it says here. The Greek form of Messiah, or name of Christ. Hebrew origin, the Messias, Mashiach, or Christ. But it says Messias is the Greek form or translation of Messiah or Mashiach. So, if that's so, then what was being interpreted? Because think about it. It's saying that this word Messias is the Greek translation of the word Mashiach or Messiah. So here's the problem. Because if the word Messias here is the Greek translation of the word Mashiach, then what's the interpretation of Christ being?
Exactly.
Because there's a word for the word Messiah in the Greek. It's called Messias. We just read it. Remember? Right. Messias.
There would be no need to interpret it. It should just have read, we have found the Messias.
Very clearly. But is it going to say being interpreted, the Christ? What, translated into what? If the word Messias is the translation of the Hebrew word Mashiach, or even the word Messiah, and that's the Greek translation, then how does the Christ come in? What are they translating this Messias into, the Christ? How does that work? How does it even get in there?
It doesn't make no sense.
No sense. Because it doesn't make no sense. Because the word, again, Messias is the Greek word for Messiah. So what's Christ an interpretation from? They're interpreting Messias as the Christ. Messias means anointed. I mean, here, let's take a look again. Messias is the Greek translation of Mashiach or Messiah, right? Not Christ. We just read it before. Messias, the Greek form of Messiah, of Hebrew origin. Messias or Messias, Mashiach equals Messiah. Then we have Christ. No, it doesn't relate back to no Hebrew. Nothing at all. No Hebrew from translating from. They're just saying it means anointed. So Messias means anointed, and Greek means Christos means anointed. But anointed of what? Of Jah or anything? I don't think so. Again, look at it. Messias cometh, which is called Christ. The Messias cometh. The Messias, this is the Greek word. Messias is the Greek word for Mashiach.
Right. There would be no need to put Christ there or being interpreted as Christ whatsoever. But you
doesn't make no sense.
These clever translators were doing is to deviate and to get you to deviate from the word Messiah or Messias and now put you onto the word Christ.
It just interjected in there.
That word Christ, Christian, and Christianity can stick into your mind.
Because is really Christ an interpretation of Messiahs? Well, why is a Greek word interpreting already a Greek word? Messias is already a Greek word with the S.
Exactly.
It's already a Greek word. So there is a Greek word for Messiah and Mashiach. It's Messias. To call the Hebrew Messiah Christ is a deviation. You understand?
That's right. They want us to deviate from Messiah to Christ.
All right.
Which is not the proper translation of the word Messiah.
That's right. All right, let's look at the Tyndale 1534, the same verses. It says, they found his brother Simon first, Old English, said to him, we have found Messias, which has been by interpretation. What does it mean?
Anointed.
Doesn't that make more sense? Because the word Messiah means anointed. It said Messias equals anointed. So they should have said, just like how it says in Tyndale here, we have found Messias, which is interpreted anointed. That makes sense.
That makes more sense for sure.
But when they go to John 4:25, they don't do it. It says, I wot well that Messiah shall come called Christ. So again, you can see that this little creep in of Christ is here, but there's no Christ. It doesn't say Christ here at anointed. That's what they're trying to say Christ should be, but no, that's 1534. Take a look at this one, the Coverdale 1535. What does this say again? Which by interpretation ye anointed. You understand? Anointed. That's where they would have the word Christ. But anointed is the proper translation for Messias. I would say that for sure.
Yes.
But again, when we do it down here, Messias is called Christ. That's where the insertion starts to come. The Matthew's Bible, which is by interpretation anointed. Remember, it said Christ there. Messias, the interpretation of it is anointed, not Christ. Here's the Christ again, Old English. Even the Great Bible, 1540, even in the Gothic, it says, we have found Messias. They spell Messiah with an F, which is by interpretation anointed. And this is the same Great Bible here in Roman font, Messias, which by interpretation is anointed. You understand?
Yeah.
And then in John 4:25, it still says Christ. Oh boy, I'm telling you, this is to me, this is heavy stuff, because they're getting catch in a lie. The Bishop's Bible, which is by interpretation the anointed, then they have the Christ. And look at the dates of these things.
Wow.
So here, this is what there could be two ways you can properly translate it. First of all, you could just take out the whole translate it into Christ and just leave it. We have found the Messias, and just leave that. But I like how they put in the anointed part. So here's one translation how it should be. You can read it, brother.
John 1 verse 41. He first findeth his own brother Simon, and saith unto him, We have found the Messiah, which is, being interpreted, the Anointed.
That's right. Makes sense.
Yeah, much more cleaner. John 4:25. The woman saith unto him, I know that Messiah cometh, which is called Anointed. When he is come, he will tell us all things.
That's right. Now here's another way if we wanted to. I was just kind of thinking a little bit. We could translate it this way if we wanted to. Go ahead.
John 1:41. He first findeth his own brother Simon, and saith unto him, We have found the Mashiach, which is, being interpreted, the Messias, or Anointed.
You catch what I'm trying to say there, Dean?
Mm-hmm.
The woman says, I know that
I know
Mashiach cometh, which is called Messias,
Messiah.
or Anointed. So these are two proper translations. Christ shouldn't be in there.
That's right, I agree.
Christ shouldn't be in there. It's supposed to be Messiah. All right. So now we have to deal with this Christian thing. And I'm almost done, about 2-3 minutes. This is why we don't call ourselves Christian. We call ourselves Messians. A completely different doctrine. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite family. Even though if I know my background has Israelite, I'm a Messian. We are Messians. You want to call yourself an Israelite Messian? All right, that's cool. But it's a Messian. We follow the commandments of the Father and the Son. And we believe only in the Father and the Son. No Trinity, and so on and so forth. All right, so we have this word Christian that appears 3 times in the Bible. Go ahead.
Acts 11 verse 26. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the assembly or church, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch.
So that Christians obviously would mean follower of Christ, right?
Right? Acts 26 verse 28. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, Almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian.
And the 3rd time you find the word Christian in the Bible.
1 Peter 4 verse 16. Yet, if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify Jah on this behalf.
All right. So I know that this word Christian appears in the Bible, and it kind of it's in there, the way they did it, just to try to throw a wrench. But guess what? Some people, Hebrew Israelites, usually teach that these disciples were called Christians to mock them, but I don't believe it. It shouldn't be Christians in the first place. We just went through the Christ thing.
That's right.
We just went through what is it supposed to say there?
Should be Messians.
Right? And even when Agrippa says, are you persuading me to be a follower of the Christ or a Messian? Yet if any man suffer as a follower of Christ or follower of the Messiah, shouldn't be Christian, it should be Messian. We just went through that Christ thing. So if you look at Christianos equals Christian, right? Christianos, G5546, from the word Christos, that's one we just went over, because Christian is attached to Christos. Look what they say it means. Christian, a follower of Christ. Well, this is how I see it. A follower of the Messiah, follower of Messiah is also called a Messian, of which we are.
Right.
We don't follow no Christ kind of thing there, even though sometimes you'll hear me use Christ and Jesus just to communicate with people, but it's a false Christianity has grabbed onto that, and it's like you're seeing a mimicry of the true faith.
That's right. It's a counterfeit faith.
That's right. So this is how we believe it should be. You can read from the last one here.
And the disciples were called Messians first in Antioch.
That's right, which means followers of the Messiah. I mean,
That's right.
You could say, hey, well, they can be called Anointians, but that kind of sounds silly. But even I even thought of, hey, Messianites. Messians is cool.
Almost thou persuadest me to be a Messian.
A follower of the Messiah.
Yet if any man suffer as a Messian, let him not be ashamed.
That's right. So you see what we're doing here. Greatly, we're saying that we have a Messian type of doctrine that we're dealing with here when it's talking about Messiah. And I just want to say greatly that we are Messians. We are
That's
followers
right.
of the Messiah.
We are followers of the true Messiah and not the false Christ.
That's right. And I know I say anybody can call themselves Messiah, I guess, but we really believe that this Messian doctrine is exclusive to the Zion Assembly of John Jahoshua. I want people to know that when they hear, what? Who's the Messians? They want to say, oh, those guys who use the J sound. Oh, those guys who have the true scriptural calendar. Or those guys who don't believe angels had sex with, a human with women. Oh, those guys who know that the two witnesses are angels and not men. Oh, those guys who teach that the Messiah is a Nazarite. And I mean, there's so many other things. Those guys who try to wear their fringes differently than everybody else, even though we're not really into promoting fringes, but if one was to. So, all of this, this understanding, and this goes way back for us, where all these books dealing with the calendar and the faith of our elder David Ray, who passed away 5 years ago. We were calling ourselves Messians from time, 15, 20 years ago. We went so far as Messiahns, but again, I won't stay there. But Messiahns is a term, and I do feel now, especially with people coming to this understanding, we've even heard, what's his name? Brother Ron, right? Brother Ron, he says that Christians should be Messianist. I mean, that sounds really strange, like a scientist, Messianist, but he's on that right track.
Yeah, he's definitely thinking along the right track for sure.
So if you watch him and you've seen it, the last one about Christian, he's on the right track that way. And we're not getting our cue off of him, even though he brought it up. We've been doing this all the time, and many people have heard us call ourselves Messians. So that's the Messian faith in a basic nutshell. What we teach and believe of the Zion Assembly of Jah is exclusive, and we're not forcing anybody to call themselves Messians or to use the names how we use them. But we do think and believe that you should keep the commandments of the Father and the commandments of the Son, and you should focus on the festivals and holy days, keeping them on the right calendar, not the lunar calendar. That's not a Messian calendar. The only Messian calendar is the one that is geared up with the Messiah and the Holy Scriptures. And this is what we teach, and this is what we believe. This is why we always say all praise and glory to Jah our Father and his Son, his only begotten Son, Jahoshua the Messiah, the Nazarite who died for our sins, respectively and honorably known as Jahoshua, Yahusha, Yahawashi, Yahoshua. And again, I made a mistake here. It's supposed to say Yeshaya, Yahshua, Yeshua, the Messiah, HaMashiach, and incorrectly Jesus the Christ. And we just use that for communication's sake because that's what people read in the scriptures. But we are not no Christian doctrine. We're not of a Hebrew Israelite doctrine. We know who true Israel is. This is a Messian doctrine.
That's right.
I declare publicly, our faith is called the Messian faith. And however it goes into the future or whatever it is, that's what you're going to be hearing from us all the time. And we'll have to explain it that way. We follow the Messiah. We don't follow Christ. And people say Christ is the Messiah. You've seen that Christ shouldn't even be translated as Messiah because Messias already is the Greek word.
That's right. Great display to show that, because prior to that, I didn't see it that way up until just recently. You know what I mean? So
yes,
our faith is the Messian faith.
That's right. It is a Messian faith, and that interpretation of Christ. Again, if you got that, I hope you can catch it, because it's very important you get that. Praise the Most High.